attracts you to a project? Is there any like? Is it slightly different here, or?
I'm like, am I gonna make money from this? You know what I mean? Like, I've got bills. I've got bills
secure
to pay.
the bag. Secure the bag.
But you know what? Funny enough, I mean, every time I've gone for the money, like the project has kind of fallen flat. You know, so it has to have some kind of soul behind it. You know, some kind of hook. But then it has to be commercial at the same time. Do you know what I mean? So, like coming from like as an independent production company, you know, we only make what we eat. You know, so we have to make commercial projects. So, one I'm looking at, has it got soul? But then at the same time, I'm like, is it commercial? And am I gonna be able to sell it?
Yeah. That's it. I guess that's like the film. You know, you do it for there's the film that you make for the art and the festivals, and also to push your career forward and use as your calling card and that. And then there's obviously the film where it needs to be commercially viable. The project has to be commercially viable because I guess we all need to be able to survive in this industry. So you're definitely right in that.
What is it? Is it the script? Is it the team? Is it the concept, the theme? What are you particularly drawn to when you hear an idea and like, I must work on that?
It's a combination of all of those things. I think you are looking at the talent. It has to be a good story because you have to be invested in that story. Otherwise, what's the point? And these projects take a very long time, so you really have to be fully engaged and involved in that from, you know, it could take 2-3 years. So you've got to keep, I mean, features, I guess commercials, maybe a bit shorter, but features, you have to really commit.
I want my next project to be about the changes in Brixton.
Why?
Half the people we used to know don't live here anymore. The shops we used to go to when we were kids, they're all closing down. I mean, you can tell there's this weird atmosphere around here now. I just think that this project is what I've been looking for.
You have to commit to the team. You have to commit to the story. That's what helps you to push the project forward. If you're not interested, that project could sort of be put to one side.
For me, it's if I love the story, then you've got me. But if I got to spend time with you and you can't take criticism and you can't like me how I am, then we can't really work together. Then the story falls flat. Because from a producer I feel is a lot more creative than a lot of people think. You know, and obviously you are meant to help develop and push and drive the director's creativity and help yourself as well. So you kind of you know what angle you want to take that film on from, and especially if you know your product, you know how to sell it well. So I feel you need those two. I can't just work with just one for me to be like, cool, yeah, we've got a script or we've got a production.
I mean, for me, coming from sort of the one show that I currently work on, that is at the heart of everything we do because, of course, it broadcasts to a huge audience of about 3-4 million a day. So, you know, for me, when we speak about story and commercial appeal, they both become one thing because actually the story only matters because it has appeal to a lot of people. Otherwise, to me, it's almost not a story. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I would envelope that in that as well because I might find a story about, I don't know, a chicken with one leg. No one cares. Only the people, like maybe a farmer. But actually, it has to have commercial appeal to all the people that are watching it because I have a responsibility for everyone that's watching it to enjoy the story I'm giving them. Otherwise, it's almost not a story. Does that make sense?
Danny, what about in development when you're kind of, I imagine the idea is what you get really excited about, right?
Yeah, I think it works in a different way for me. So coming from driving my own channel and creating my own content, like I was the boss. I said, I was the commissioner. I was like, right, we're going out on Thursdays at 10 p.m. and this, that and the other, and right, we're coming out episode. And I think for me, I knew that I wasn't going to be one of those channels that did episode shoot. I knew that I was going to shoot the bulk of it, edit it, and then put it out on time, 8 p.m. on a Sunday. And that was, so for me, I was in complete control. And coming to the other side of it, where I have to figure out how my skills can help this company that I'm working in, I know what is in my heart, and it's like, right, you also have to think about those things about, is this commercial, can this sell? But as well, yeah, it can sell, but does it matter to me? Because like you said, you're stuck with this project, especially in development, especially when you work in an independent company, you're stuck with this story that might have to go through rounds of, okay, we like this, let's send it out, okay, this is the feedback, come back. And these processes sometimes can take 4 years. Like the current project that we're working on, it's been like working on for 4 years. So it's like, okay, what do I like? What am I willing to, give up my life and answer phone calls from worried writers at 3 a.m? Like, what am I willing to do that for? And yeah, so I think that it's kind of the same, and all of the elements all work into it, but I try to think about how I can make people feel good, the commissioner feel good, the writer feel good, and stuff like that. But I really enjoy it.
And I think just talking about the commercial viability of something, the industry can sometimes feel very results driven, and you know that there's this pressure for it to succeed, either you know to make money or to pull in audiences. Is that something that's important to you when you're making decisions about what you work on?
Yes, but then I think as well, for me personally, if I always look at we live in Britain. Britain is a majority white country. Some of the projects that I want to work on are projects that star, you know, black characters doing very black things, and the problem with that is that people find what you get, the feedback that you get from commissioners, like, where's the universality in this story? And how can other people like get into this story? So for me, it's like, if I only look at results and what will get results, I'll have to ignore my community, because according to...
It's not mainstream
It's
enough.
not mainstream enough. So I think there's that balancing act that I have to do. And I don't know if it's the same for any of you guys in terms of what you want to do.
It's funny you say that, because I was having a chat with one of my friends at work, BBC, and I find it really interesting that because when I was in development, that was a lot of the time what they said. They used to say, you know, where's the universality to this story, or you know how a lot of people are going to appreciate it. But then actually, when you look at it, a lot of the time, the things that we watch actually have nothing to do with where we're from, who we are, whatever. So actually, which goes back to my whole point about the story being king. If it's a good story, you'll find a way to get in and get out, and you travel along the journey. So for me, it's always been that idea that actually, let's ignore the noise about what, you know, the commissioners hold the purse strings. Yes, that is the truth. But actually, as a producer, my responsibility is to the story, to whatever I've got that someone's trusted me with to say, tell my story or take the story on or whatever, and I have the responsibility to sell it to these guys that it can be good and ultimately make it good. So that's how my mind sort of processes that. I mean, it's a difficult thing to make happen, and that's why a lot of time ambitions are so high and sometimes the product comes out so low because we want to do a lot of things. But actually, I think the best way to tackle that whole idea of it's not for the people, it's niche, but then actually show about 80s girls in the 80s wrestling does well. It's, you know, who cares really, but it's a good story.
There are
So
specific challenges, aren't there?
Do you know
and I
what I
think
mean?
on that, have you experienced any challenges maybe when you've wanted to do something that perhaps wasn't mainstream?
I think you're always going to face challenges. You know, at the end of the day, you've got to move with what you feel you want to do, but also you do have to think about an audience. Again, about the commercial viability of something. You're not making a film for one person to watch or yourself to watch. You're making it for a wider audience, and hopefully a diverse audience. And I guess, you know, like you're saying, if the story is king, the story is king. If the story is right, everyone's gonna want a piece of that story. And so yeah, I guess that's how I'm driven, really, you know. And obviously you do have personal interest. I know that there's certain stories I want to tell, different stories, and that's my thing, telling different stories, whether they're female led, whether they're about Cypriots in London, or whether they're from, you know, about Ghanaian members of the community, whatever, doesn't matter. If it's a good story, I'm going to tell the story, and if it's a story I feel is important that needs to be told, I'm also going to be encouraged to do that too, because at the end of the day, sometimes people don't really know what they want until you deliver it. You know, there are so many films that are sort of
There's a resounding like
yeah, no, it's
That is
true,
the
because
truth.
there are so many films out there that I'm sure a lot of people, big films that have done so well, that sort of tackle major issues like you know, Get Out, looking at race, or Moonlight, looking at homosexuality within a black community, two black characters. People probably didn't want this, you know. The majority of audience didn't want this, but look at how successful these films are, because there is an audience there for
I
it.
think it
You
was
know.
in June or July, but Get Out was already the sort of
Yeah,
biggest grossing film
massive. But
of the year. We
you
already
know,
knew that.
And if you listen to people saying, "Oh no, people don't really want to watch those films," then then those people aren't going to make those films. But no, make them and people will come see them.
Yeah, and I think that that's exactly what's happened, is that we are so necessary because you lot are running out of stories to tell. And you need diverse voices because we have access to things that you don't. And if you're always going for, well, this was successful, you'll just keep making that same thing over and over again. So it's exciting to be in that place where you have the freedom, if you do, to say, oh my God, I really love this project. Let me sacrifice making this here and pushing this so that I will be able to do this later. And I think that that's part of the juggling act. And I love it.
How easy then? Sorry, do you want to answer?
So enough. I mean, I was thinking, you know what? When you mentioned that whole that topic, I kind of realized that we do it very subconsciously. So.
Without a quota, you mean?
Yeah. So we don't say, okay, cool. We're just gonna do it specifically for the black people, because the way we look is like black people are getting involved regardless. So with this show, with the story about Shakespeare, I don't read Shakespeare. I don't like Shakespeare, but I know who does. But I want to shoot in my own area where I can relate to it. So it's like two worlds coming together. And like now, when we're showing it in the theater, people from all walks of life, older or young, like, wow, this is amazing. Oh, I can relate to this, and they're all having a conversation. And that's what that's what my work really I want to see.
Making it
represent
accessible.
London. So integrating it slowly, so they start to like you more and more, start to learn, educate you. Because if you hit them straight, bang. It's like, okay, what's this? It's a bit too foreign for them, so you kind of have to feed them, drip,
Through different
drip.
access points.
Yeah.
That's my thing, though. That's what I find a bit interesting when, for example, you say it's foreign to them, but actually, because sorry, I might be going on a tangent.
And when you say them, who you talking about?
Mainstream.
I guess the
Mainstream.
mainstream.
Okay, yeah.
You mean white people?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
okay.
I'm just checking.
Not just white people, but just
The mainstream. The mainstream.
Okay.
Do you know what I find really interesting is that I have no problem watching X Factor or Gogglebox or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I have no problem watching these shows. I cater to a mainstream audience, but then when it's about something that I am coming from, there's a problem doing the reverse. And I've always found it interesting because I don't know what I do differently that allows me to access certain stories that they can't. Do you know what I mean? It's a very interesting thing, and I think maybe it's something we've impressed on ourselves, because actually, if a film becomes successful, like Girls Trip becomes successful, I didn't even go to the cinema to watch it, so who is watching it? So
Girls Trip
actually,
was done really well.
yeah, it's done
Better than
amazingly
Wonder
well.
Woman.
No, but I totally understand what you're saying in terms of, okay, so we as minority people in this country, we can sit down and watch your Downton Abbey, your stuff that doesn't represent us until very much later on in the series, right? Like then when they got a jazz band at the end, we can sit down and watch Howard's End or whatever the period drama is.
Yeah.
When we have a show like, let's say, Venus versus Mars on Sky, or I want to say Top Boy, but I know that Ronan Bennett made that, and so it's a little bit different just because it was like not written by a black person, even though Chewing Gum, thank you babe, thank you, yeah,
That's
Chewing Gum,
Okay.
Crazy Head, whatever it is, right? The idea that should just be accessible. If we were able to lend you our eyes, lend us yours in the same way, and it doesn't. And I understand what you're saying in terms of, yes, right, why can't that be reciprocated? And I think that's an interesting thing, and it's something that is like made. We have to prove that we're universal, but you lot never have to prove. You don't have to prove that like we're gonna watch it. It's just a given. Yeah. You're gonna sit down and watch Gogglebox or X Factor or whatever. And I think that's interesting. I feel like it's like the onus is put on like people of color who are working to get out there.
I disagree. I disagree.
Tell me more.
Like, because do you know why? I'm gonna be honest, right? Like, I do a lot of African content, so I know some markets that I sell to, like predominantly like Nollywood movies. They're not gonna watch anything else. So if you went there and started making Downton Abbey, they'll be like, "What is this? This is not. This is not for us. This is not the market." So for me, and this is what I learned. It's all about finding your audience. You know, and not being like feel like you're being rejected if an audience doesn't like what you do. Like just like either roll the punches, but just find your audience, and then when you get your audience, just grow that audience. you know. And I find a lot of shows, even shows that have like critical acclaim, like The Wire, for example, it started with a really small audience, and then it grows, and the more people get into it, and then becomes a cult classic. But
and they become your distributors and
they
your
become
biggest
your
fans.
because what a lot of people could, like, you know, fall victim of is just spending years and years and years and years, like, you know, either in pitching or in development and stuff like that, and just, you know, you can just get really, really frustrated, bitter.
I'm just going to bring
angry.
it back to, I guess, the topic, just because we're going off on a little bit of a tangent. But as producers, I think, you know, we're currently in a bit of a golden generation for content creators. So going back to what you're saying is finding your audience, having the platforms to create what you want to create, and actually knowing that there is an audience out there for you, and actually as producers knowing who your audience is, whatever project that you're working on. And it sounds like internationally there's a forum for that, there's space for that. But do you think that we're entering a space here in the UK where you know, you're really going to see some success on building audiences that you want to reach?
Yeah, I think the thing that's exciting for me is having started out on YouTube and leaving it to go and work in the broadcast industry, in the traditional broadcast industry. It's exciting to see the way that things are progressing, and part of me wishes that I was able to be part of this new crew, even though like the stuff that we did 5-6 years ago, you know, is great because it's, you know, everybody stands on the shoulders of the people that came before them. I think that there's something exciting about the access that we have and the platforms that we have available to us now, and the knowledge that we have, and the way that, you know, the communities are being able to connect. So I'm really excited to see what everyone does online.
A lot of brands are doing it as well right now. BMW have their own production company. Facebook does. Facebook got some real big plans coming up. They're gonna rival Netflix, and you already know why. And for me, it feels like we're being pushed towards this direction, but now we're gonna have to do way more than just make content and just target the audience. We're gonna have to go way more further to be a lot more ahead of the curve.
So on that, let me ask you all, in terms of your respective roles, because producing isn't just one thing, and I think often when people ask me, I'm like, I can't really explain exactly what it is, but in your own words, how would you kind of explain the different levels of a producer in I guess, your respective industries?
How would you describe a producer?
So you're a feature film producer. What does that exactly involve?
I call myself a producer. I produce quite a few things. But yeah, I guess I'm a producer. A producer does a lot of stuff, guys, right? And we don't get credit for it, okay? But I mean, a big part of producing is actually coming up with the ideas, like you were saying before, you know, driving the directors or directing the writers on where they need to you know, how to make the script, I guess, commercially viable and interesting and engaging, and like sort of leap off the page. I guess you're also like you're mentoring. You could be a nurse in production. You're managing everything. So you're responsible for delivering that project. There's a lot of pressure on you. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on the director as well, because they are the ones capturing all the action. But you have to make sure you deliver the project. If you're backed by financiers, you have to make sure that they can make back their money. And producers do a lot of things. They can be creative producers who work in development, like Danielle. I'd call myself a creative producer because I think the story is very important. I spend a lot of time working with the writers, the directors, to make sure it's the best version or the best vision that the writer or director or the producer has.
Does that resonate with everyone on the panel? Is there anything that you would sort of qualify as being a different skill as a producer?
Yeah, so you have... Do you want to go ahead?
No, go on.
No.
You have to listen to each other.
Yes, like, so you have exec producer who is, you know, or he or she is looking at, like, you know, the money, the business, that type of thing. And obviously you have, like you said, all the different levels underneath that. And I think obviously the smaller the team you are, you're doing a little bit of everything. Yeah. You know, you're doing from raising the money to doing the catering. Do you know what I mean? You're doing all different levels. As the team gets bigger, then you have, like, you know, like development producer that's dealing with the development. You have the line producer that's dealing with, like, you know, the different financial things on a production set. Production manager dealing with just organising things for the day. What else do you have? Production assistant.
But I think the producer ultimately is responsible for kind of curating the right team, bringing in the right talent, looking after that talent, driving that talent to be the best that they can be, and I think as well kind of constantly pushing the production value of whatever it is that you're making. Like, you are just that cheerleader and that champion, and that's the unsung bit, I think.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I've had a situation on set where an actor's dad is dying in another country, but I have investors and money on the line, so I had to figure out, how do I fly the actor to see his dad, hopefully before his dad passes away, but then get him back because money's on the line and there's not much contingency budget. So you know, being a producer on production can just keep you up at night, and leads to, like, your wife leaving you and stuff. You know,
I was gonna say that I don't have a child, but I definitely feel like a father.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
We do so much emotional control as well. You know, when you work on models and the makeup artists is having beef on set, and like someone's got something else they're telling you about, and someone's parking in the wrong spot, or like you're thinking, right, why am I? Oh yeah, I'm the producer. And it's like a father relationship. If you could talk to the director, like, you have a special bond with whatever director, you got to develop that as well, and you got to make sure you know how to handle that director before you go towards the client. Be like, yo, we can't do this, in a way that it don't sound rude to them, and just knowing how
they understand your thought process,
and
that you would have thought about the emotional responsibility and the logistical responsibility.
There is, and I think there is an emotional responsibility, like, in development, you're working with, like, the beating heart of the story, which is the writer, and it's your responsibility to make sure that they're, you know, mentally okay, like that they aren't under too much pressure, that they understand how to take breaks, but they also know how to meet deadlines, and getting that there. And I think that depending on the size of the company that you work for in development, you the level of responsibilities can change depending on what project you're working on. And I think we sometimes don't take enough time for ourselves to take a moment and take a breath, because I think it's so anxiety inducing is working and trying to get everybody together.
I feel anxious all the time.
Like, just trying to drive everyone to that end point is challenging, and you're at the wheel of the car, and you just know that at any moment anyone could jump out, and you're like, no, you're trying to get
the best friend and the worst enemy at the same time.
Yeah, because you know, I want them to stay in the car, and I'm trying to tell them, like, we're gonna make it. It's you know, it can, like, at the end of it, you're like, yeah, this is worth it. But during it, you're like, why do I do this? Like,
insane.
wow, I could really work somewhere else.
So on that, you talked a lot about some of the challenges. What have been some of your highlights?
Oh man, producing is such a highlight. You know,
you see the funny situations that you can't even imagine.
It is funny. I mean, you get to work with some incredible minds. Some of them are a bit loopy, but they are incredible. And it's like putting them all together in a pot and cooking up this amazing creation, this amazing product that you've all sort of come together, the blood, sweat and tears, and it's very, very rewarding. You know, and when you go from nothing and then you create this story, it's, you can't really beat it.
So coming from a factual background, I deal with the public a lot, and I realise that the public are probably the craziest people ever. And you actually realise they either don't like TV or they really like TV. There's no normal people in the middle. So because of that, you know, you have, that's where my comedy comes, you know. You have people that are really, really into it, and they start saying, oh, can I bring my mum and my dad and my uncle, and actually I want to bring this guy, and I want to bring, no, we just need you for 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
So the highlight for you is working with
it's just the,
eccentric public members.
I mean, no day's the same, you know. For example, today I had to organise a shoot in about 2 hours to go down. First it was Chester, then it was to Brighton tomorrow morning. And it's like, we're dealing with 65-year-old people, and then we get on the phone and we sort of say, so we're looking to come down. You're looking to what? Yeah, we'd like to come down. Why? You said we should call you. Oh, no, I don't think I want to do it anymore. And do you know what I mean? So It's a highlight because it's just, I don't know what's going. I'm going into work and I'm like, okay, today's gonna be calm. And actually, no, I'm not.
What about some highlights over here?
My highlight was our 4th season of Dear Jesus. We had a premiere in Atlanta.
Oh,
So like me and like 10 of the cast went over there, and first of all, making sure that everyone was alive and on the plane. Somebody missed the plane, but it's fine. They got the next plane. It was fine. And just being over there, and like, as much as like, you know, like America's shiny and stuff, it was even better when we came back to London and we like sold out the Prince Charles Cinema in West End, and it was just, you know, one of those nights where you're like, wow, I want to do this again and again and again, and like that was like one of the highlights.
So the rewards in general, you
yeah,
think?
I like the end product, and I don't mind the journey, but I like the end product. And then in broadcast, like a lot, we had a diverse writers scheme that my boss told me to like run, where we paid 2 writers of colour for 6 months, and then we had a Sky table read. And for me, that was like really wonderful to like help these writers who hadn't had the access yet, and then filling the room with, you know, our peers in the industry, and getting those reactions and getting those laughs after shouting at them and telling them, you're a rug, I'm telling you, change this line, fix this beat, and stuff. So I think that those things and everything that comes in between, but it's just those moments at the end when everything comes together, even when the night before you were like, yeah, I don't know if this is gonna work.
The
but
look in your face just
I know that look.
said it all.
you know that,
Yeah.
that feeling. So yeah, and yeah.
I'm gonna add to that. Everything you said, you guys said was right, but sometimes the highlights for me is working with people that are just getting into the industry, because it reminds you why the hell you're doing this in the first place. Like, you know, why am I doing this? You be a runner, you'd be like, damn, I just had a good conversation. Why I gotta get this money, B? And you're like, you know what? This is worth it. Like, you know, seeing the stars in their eyes, and like, yeah, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
Remembering you were like that once. And now you're cynical.
And I think a lot of it is about kind of lifting as you climb as well, and being able to be responsible for someone else's success. Speaking of which, who is it that inspires you to kind of be at your best, or to keep striving for more and doing more?
Amara Sante, Shonda Rhimes, Nicholas Schindler. Those are like the top 3.
Nice.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
I'm gonna say the most cliche stuff, but I'm being legit.
Not Shakespeare.
No, my mom, my mom and my brother. Because sometimes I think I work hard, right? But she works 10 times harder than I can actually imagine. She's a mom, 3 boys. She's studying hair, this and that, and working. I think, how do you have all the time to do all of this stuff? And she comes correct, and she gets the job done. So I'm like, that's the type of, you know, motivation I gotta take with life as well.
Nice.
And my brother's sick.
Nice. I love it when family can inspire.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I'd agree. My mum, my grandma, who passed in July, God rest her soul, but she was a creative. She started this, and my brothers, my siblings, they guide me. There are so many people in this industry that I look up to and I'm inspired by. So it's really difficult for me to say who. But yeah, I'll pay homage to them in the projects I work.
Anyone else?
So for me, I guess I just, because of where I'm aiming to be, which I hope is near the top, I try to look at the people that are doing what I want to do. So I'm looking at people like Ryan Coogler, and I'm looking at people in documentaries like Dave Nath and James Newton, who are actually like producing the stuff I want to do, because hopefully I'll be their rival soon. So those are the people I sort of measure myself against at the moment.
Talk.
Have to be.
Yeah.
Have to do it.
Yeah.
And I get inspired by, it's going to sound, it's going to sound good, but I get inspired by Nollywood producers. And the reason why is because they don't have no money, no budget, no financing, no commissioners.
Throw the rule
nothing.
book out the window.
Yeah, they just have to like find it, get it done, sell it. And to a lot of people that is foreign, you know, because they have everything all set up for them. But like, you know, I've been on some sets in different countries around the world, and just seeing the hustle, you know, with like, you trying to have sound when there's like a generator outside and you're still trying to shoot. You're not
trying to have electricity when the generator goes down.
You know,
That's real talent.
People would
you know.
crumble.
That's
The people would really crumble.
Yeah.
You know, so I would say there's a lot of critics, but I would say to the critics, what could you do if you was in that situation?
Yeah.
Ask them.
And that's what inspires me.
That's interesting, yeah.
I produced in Ethiopia as well, and a similar landscape, similar challenges, everything you think you know. And I think we talked before, producing is just problem solving, essentially.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, what are the key characteristics that, you know, you find you have in common with other producers?
I think you have to have confidence. You got to have a sense of humour. You got to be able to adapt to different personalities, and be humble as well. But also at the same time, you have to be a permanent hustler. And look, I mean, there's different producers. You got to be nice to people as well, man. You got to be respectful and treat people with kindness and grace. And decency, you know, because you're asking a lot of people to do things, you know, they're stepping out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
So you have to be mindful of that.
And often it's about having those tough conversations, having
Oh,
those
yeah.
laughs, and ultimately encouraging people to do what you need them to do.
Yeah.
And then give you the money that you need them to.
Yeah, you got to be
give you.
persuasive, man, as well.
And I'm actually really interested in, once you get the money and you produce different things on different scales, what are your top tips for kind of budgeting in terms of funding, how to get the funds in the first place, and then kind of how to work your budget so you can stretch it?
I think, I think the key with budgeting anything in terms of people giving you money is people usually undervalue their projects, especially in the beginning. They say they don't do the maths, you know. They say, oh, they just give you, give me $5,000 and I can do this. When you work out that you need a salmon for 10 days, you need a DOP who's £1,200 per day for 10 days, and you need, do you know what I mean?
Development time.
All of these things, and you need to get paid yourself, because obviously you can't live on bread alone. So actually, you need to sit down and do those numbers and pay someone to do those numbers. So I think that's the number one problem with probably the first projects people work on, is that
Not asking for enough money.
not asking for enough money, undervaluing themselves, and not just doing the numbers. Because at the end of the day, the numbers matter. You know, you are going to sell these things. You might be making art, but art can sell. You can make money off your art. It's not wrong to,
Yeah.
you know.
And I think when it comes to budget, so let's say you haven't gone out to financiers because that you didn't have access to that, you didn't understand that, but all you knew is that you had a plan. I think discipline is the one thing that will allow you to keep going, is that you know that, right, this is my budget, like you were saying, contingency money, this is what would happen. What do you have? What goes wrong money? Like, you know, you have that in place. You know that. So if you have all of that in place, yeah, it's just the fact that you know that, right, today this is going to be this much, and you can work it depending on, I did, in terms of you don't have much, but the stuff that you have, if you're disciplined and you know you've made your little Excel spreadsheet, and you have it printed off and you keep it on you every day and stuff, and so there's ways to do it. But I think for me, the one thing that I would say is definitely discipline, and it was my lack of discipline that got me into trouble at the end of Dear Jesus. And I can always look back and be like, yeah, man, I messed up.
But you had to make those mistakes.
Of course,
to know how
no,
to do it differently.
definitely. But I think that holding on to being rigid about certain things allows you to be free in other areas. And with budget, discipline is the one that I think will help you the most.
Yeah.
For me, I remember finishing just about to. We started third year of Ravensbourne, and we're like, cool. Our ambition was so high. We're like, we're gonna kill ourselves with so much ambition, right? So we said we need to raise £10,000 for a film in a month, and we don't have a clue, right? So like what you said, discipline, and legit, I told God knows how many people the same log line, same story, how many people, and I managed to raise about £20,000 in like a month. And I sat back, I was thinking, how did I just do that?
It's incredible.
And I had to sit down and really think about how I methodically masterminded, like, you know, yo, there's 5 of us, you need to use your network, get 50 people on your side, 50 people on that side. Me and the director literally walked all the way through Balham, knocked on people's doors, like, let's get this, you know what I'm saying? Try and make people believe in you. If people believe in you, they're gonna throw money at you like it's nothing, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a strip club. So you just gotta find that belief, and throw it, you know what I'm saying?
Throw money in strip clubs anymore.
Yes, they do. In Magic City in Atlanta, I threw a lot of money. What? Yes.
That's funny.
To add to that, quickly, no, I would say that, I mean, once you have the money as well, you have to be like honest, because what I try and do, and what I, is that I'm not gonna. I'll negotiate, with anyone who's working with me. Whether it's I can only pay you £50, I can only pay you £100, but once you negotiate, pay the person on time.
Oh yes. Oh my God.
So that's the key. Because once
That is a love language, That is a love language.
Yeah,
pay
it should
people
be.
on time.
Pay people on time. Because once you have, it doesn't matter how much you're paying someone. If you're gonna pay them, like if it's free, whatever. But as long as like you're gonna get your money on time.
Or if it's a nominal token, it's a moment
just-
of appreciation to
Yeah.
say, I
Definitely.
value your time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because it's building those relationships, which is kind of a huge, I think, a key characteristic
Yeah.
as well, is to be able to build
definitely.
those
And
relationships.
people trust you that way.
Yeah.
That okay,
Yeah.
this
And they want to work with you again.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what it's all about.
This industry is based on relationships.
Yeah.
And if you're up
100%.
and down town just shagging people left, right and centre, when it comes time for you to build your project, who's going to come and help you? And it's all about us collaborating together. And if we know that we have to hold each other to create this relationship. But if one person is not working, that rudder ain't working. So it means that the ship isn't going to move forward. So for me, it's about working with people that we can trust and that we know that, you under promise and over deliver. That's always, I think, a good thing.
Professionalism, I think, is
Yeah,
the
all
most
day,
important
all
thing.
day.
One
Yeah,
thing I
it's your
wanna drop in.
reputation as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
Is that because it's become so democratic, actually the people have power. So if you do not value someone with that power, ultimately you're going to have nothing left, you know what I mean? And I think that's really, really important, because at the beginning of a film, we don't know what we're going to make.
Yeah.
No one, no matter how good you are, you don't know what that film's going to be at the end. And everyone puts into that film, no matter what you think or what value you think you're bringing. So actually, everyone matters, and you have to treat everyone like they matter.
So what's everyone watching right now?
There's too many things to watch, but I'll just throw out 1 and 2, Narcos, and that's on Netflix, and Get Out. I loved Get Out.
Okay.
That's just 2, but there's so many.
Anyone else?
Oh my gosh, I'm watching Insecure, Scandal, Howard's End, A-Word.
What are you not watching?
Oh, what I'm not watching, She's Gotta Have It now.
Oh, I
That's,
binge
no, I
watched
know
that
that's like
yesterday.
a crime. Oh my God, Spike Lee. But if we had time, we could speak about it. But
Okay, we don't,
I'm
we
not
don't.
watching.
Okay, cool. What are you guys watching?
I'm watching. I just finished watching Mindhunters. Freaking out! I'll watch it again. There's no action, but it's just talking. But you know what? It's lit.
Okay.
And I'm watching Stranger Things too.
Oh yeah.
No
which
spoilers.
is- Yeah.
I'm yet to catch up on it. What's happening?
Me, I mean, I love comedy. I like Curb Your Enthusiasm, but apart from, I'm trying not to watch any TV.
Okay.
And it sounds really bad, but I just get too sucked in, because I got on Scandal. I just sat there watching episode after episode. I'm not doing any work.
Sure, it could be
so
quite distracting.
So it's like, the commitment. I'm just like trying not to get committed to anything at the moment.
Okay.
Well, you guys have said some good shows, but I guess my favourite show was The Wire, and the show I'm enjoying right now, or I've just finished, is Ozark.
Oh yeah.
I started that. I
yeah.
didn't finish it. That's a good one.
Is it
Yeah,
good?
that is a
Take
good
your
one.
time with it, and
Yeah.
you'll be rewarded, trust me.
Okay.